What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Art of Suffering podcast with Dalton Darnell. Today, we have a guest that I met through TikTok. Once again, don't know this guy from Adam. Let's welcome Brandon Schrader to the podcast. We're going to talk about his story and kind of where he's from and what he's done. So, Brandon, thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely.
So let's start there. Kind of where are you from and what do you do and how did we get here?
Well, I'm from Southeast Iowa. I grew up on a small ranch. We roped and rodeoed, but we raised uh, show horses and longhorn cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And a high school, college, and pro rodeoed for a short stint. And then when I was younger, my parents back in the 90s, when the whole clinician craze went down, I was lucky enough. My mom got into some clinicians, and so was around some pretty good horsemanship ideals from a young age. And then I
Mm-hmm.
got kicked in the face shoeing horses in college, and then I kind of moved over to just doing horses. And then I met my wife. We had a pile of kids. Decided it was easier to make a living raising kids shoeing horses than it was riding horses. So then
Right.
I went down that road. And a couple of years ago, my body gave out on me, so I took a job welding for 3 or 4 years, and then got my both hips replaced. And then now I'm back to shoeing horses full time.
What was your event when you were rodeoing?
In high school, I team roped and calf roped. In college, I added saddle bronc riding.
Okay. Okay. What was your favorite?
Ooh, I would have to say probably roping calves, just because it's all on you. You don't
Hmm.
have to worry about a partner, and
Yeah.
but the saddle bronc riding, had I had a chance to stick with it, I got knocked out, and then that kind of was the end of that.
Hmm.
But I enjoyed the bronc riding.
Yeah. Man, I ain't never in my days. My dad rode broncs when I was a kid, man, and I was like, man, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to
Yeah,
do any of that, honestly.
right.
If I can't ride one that farts too hard, so I usually tend to like I'll go do teach clinics and stuff, and I'll fly in and borrow a horse or whatever, and I always
Mhm.
tell the people hosting the clinic, I'm like, hey, look, man, don't cut me no bronc now. Like I
Right,
ain't no bronc rider.
right.
Like unless you want to see me come off, and I always come off. I'm head heavy. You know,
So am
I'm
I.
hitting
Yep,
head first, baby. Like, I
yep,
swear, every time I get bucked off, my hat just gets crushed because that's just the way I come out.
yep. I understand that.
Oh man, well that's cool. Um, so both hips replaced. Is that from bronc riding or what the heck? How old are you?
40. I just turned 40 into
40.
May. Yeah,
What the
yeah.
heck, dude?
Well, I did. I guess in that grand scheme of things, I did 6 years in the Army in the infantry, so I'm sure that didn't help any.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think just between shoeing horses and rodeo, and then the little bit of time I spent in the Army, I'm sure that all packed together had a toll on it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Two hip replacements by 40. That's wild. Did they tell you did you have anything else wrong with you? Or they're just like, nah, these things are wore out. We need new ones.
Yeah, well, the medical system now wants you to do a bunch of physical therapy, and with the farrier stuff, I've seen a lot of times where once you get pictures, you're kind of like, ooh, exercise was not the answer. You made it worse. So I kind of threw a
Mm-hmm.
fit and was like, no, until you guys get images of this, I'm not doing any physical therapy. And I'm glad I did, because they finally bypassed it. They took pictures and they were like, ooh, yeah, these
Mm-hmm.
are done. And
That's wild.
yeah, they replaced the first one, and he told me, he said, I hope you get 5 years out of your other hip. Well, I didn't make it hardly 6 months. And it was like, yeah, no. So I had to go in and get the second one replaced 1 year later.
That's crazy. I'll tell you this, man. I mean, I've shod some horses my own, you know.
Hmm.
There's few things on earth uh that suck as bad as shoeing horses. It is tough. That is a tough freaking job. I even if you're good at it, like and I'm not good at it. It's just a hard thing to be under them suckers for that long. Um kind of speak to that. I mean, what so you've been shoeing horses for how long now?
Oh, about 22 years.
Explain that
Yeah.
to people, the people who don't know. You know what I mean? Like what you're looking at, and then kind of more or less like what you have to do to get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I started out trimming our brood mares, and then I went to college, and they had a short course that was basically don't put nails inside the white line, and that was about
Hmm.
the extent of it. So then I started shoeing my own, being a broke college kid. Well, that evolved into, hey, can you do mine? Hey, can you do mine? And it was some pretty quick and easy beer money, and
Hmm.
so it kind of evolved from there. But yeah, you're bent over in a half squat basically on 4 feet, and of course you got to shape the shoe, and on a good day, it's 20 minutes. So if you can hold a half squat for 20 minutes and then repeat that 7, 8 times throughout the day, 20 minutes at a time, that's basically the physical aspect of what you're looking at.
Hmm. I never shot it. Like mine stood real good.
Right. Yep.
But they'd lean on you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Yep.
you'd get under there, and then they just start putting all their weight like on
Yep.
you, and you're like,
Yep.
"Dear gummit, you sorry
Yep.
sucker, you freaking get off of me,
Yep.
man!" Like, oh my gosh, man. The only when I cowboyed in Alabama, we had a farrier come do our horses. We just didn't have
Mm-hmm.
time to do it. And when we got that gig out in Wyoming, there's no farriers out there. I mean, there
Right.
are, but they're not
Right.
coming to where you are, you know? And
No.
so we were
Right.
like, okay, we got to learn how to do this. And so a good friend of ours, we lived right next to the shoeing school in Oklahoma.
Oh, perfect.
And so he took us in there and kind of gave us the once over. Was like, okay, this is kind of how you get them on there, bro. I couldn't keep shoes on a freaking horse to save my life. I mean, I'd
Yeah.
clinch them long. I'd freaking send them deep. I just couldn't figure it out. And so
Right.
I threw shoes every single day in Wyoming, and every day I'd get done with my circle and be like, God dang it, I gotta put shoes on this sucker again. And I had one horse at the end of the summer that kept his shoes, but his foot was like this freaking big. Like, I
Right.
don't know if that helped or what, but all my other ones were kind of small footed. And oh man, the shoeing is. I have a lot of respect for a fella that can get under
Yeah.
those horses and sit there for that long, because it's a very hard, grueling job, even if the horse is like cool.
Right.
Um, if they suck, I can't even imagine what it'd be like if they
Yeah.
were like snatching away from you and just being a turd, you know?
Right.
But a lot of horsemanship goes into that. A lot of horsemanship goes into shoeing horses you don't know.
Yeah, I can honestly say that I learned a lot about horsemanship from shoeing horses, and that's something that I'm pretty staunch about, and I make a big stink about in the farrier community, as far as horses needing to stand, because that's an owner responsibility. And
100%.
for whatever reason, we have, as a farrier industry and as a client culture, we've created this culture that it's just the farrier's problem to either teach a horse how to stand or the farrier's problem to get by one. And
Hmm.
I'm not, I don't, and even the other day was listening to a podcast when a very, very well known farrier was like, oh, you just got to get by him. It's part of the job. And I don't agree with that. And I think we need to put a lot more responsibility on the horse owners to do that. And it would make, because 80%, I think 80 or 90% is the attrition rate of horseshoeing school graduates. Like a
Hmm.
year after they get out of shoeing school, they're done. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is they just get the hell beat out of them. And
Hmm.
who wants to do that?
Hmm.
Nobody wants to get the hell beat out of them like that. So I think we need to kind of make a shift, because you can. I mean, there's if a horse won't stand good, and there are some that just won't, then there's always sedation, you
Hmm.
know. And I think part of the problem also, back in the old days, you used to maybe tie one up. Well, everybody's pretty quick to throw somebody under the bus these days. And,
Yeah.
I personally seen, hasn't happened to me, but I've seen where a $500 sale barn pony turned into a $50,000 barrel horse,
Hmm.
because the horse got hurt. So, I'm pretty staunch about they stand, or I'm not gonna fiddle with them. But it
No.
hasn't always
And
been that way. When I was younger, I cold banged. I would say I was a horseshoer the first 10 years, and I've been a farrier the last 10 years. And
hmm.
when I was a horseshoer, I had enough trainer in me that I'd work on them. And I think
Hmm.
that's some of what's wrong with why my hips went out, because I
Yeah.
fought horses that I really shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, man. Like the principle to get your horse to stand still is pretty uh usually pretty simple. There's always
Right.
those cases
Right.
that are just not going to do right. But if you got a
Right.
smart critter under you or
Hmm.
around you, you know, if you move their feet, they'll stand still.
Right. Right.
like
Right.
like
Right.
the way to get a horse to stop is you move their feet until they
Right.
want to
Exactly.
stop.
Yep. Yep.
So that's what we would do. I had one gelding in my string that to this day is just a stingy.
Right.
Just he
Right.
ain't no kid's horse. And you go to get under there, and those first couple, you know, licks, he'd be kind of bothered. And but
Hmm.
if he moved, you just come out of there and move his feet real hard, like, "Hey, Jack Wagon,
Yep.
you're gonna freaking stand
Yep.
here," and then he
Yep.
immediately knows, like, "Okay, I'm
Okay.
gonna
I'm
stand."
done.
And
Yep.
he was the best one to shoe. All the mares
Right.
would stand great, but they'd lean on you, you know,
Right.
freaking.
Right.
Um, you know, their horses you can rope on bridleless, and they still just
Right.
put a
Yeah.
quarter of their body weight right in your freaking lap, you know.
Right.
Um, but to speak to, you know, you said you got a bunch of kids, and here's my argument to defend you or defend your thought process, because I'd be the same way. If that sucker ain't standing, I ain't crawling under there.
Hmm.
Like, you got to be kidding me. Is
Right.
whose responsibility is it for your kid to act right at school?
That's right.
Is
It's
that the
your
teacher's
parents. Yeah, it's
responsibility
the
or the
parents.
parents?
You
No, you're a
betcha.
sorry freaking dad if your kid's acting like a
That's
dank
right.
at school and you
That's
don't
right.
drive up there and freaking clobber one because
That's
they're
right.
being stupid. So it's no different with your dog or your horse. If you got an
Hmm.
ill-mannered dog or an ill-mannered horse, it's a reflection of you. Like, you send your youngin to school and expect some 23-year-old right out of college to teach your youngin how to mind. You've lost your, I mean, you're not doing it right. I'm sorry.
That's right.
That's
That's
on
right.
you,
You're
buddy.
not wrong. You are not
So
wrong.
it's no different with a horse or anything else on earth. Like, I don't understand that I'm going to send all my badass kids to school and expect the teacher to fix them. Like,
Yep.
they got
Yep.
to teach them how to read. Can you imagine
Right.
doing that for a
Right.
living? Like, oh my God. Not to mention they make freaking 35
Right.
grand a year. It ain't worth
Yep.
teaching your youngin to act right. Like,
Yep.
what? Oh my goodness. So
It's
so
kind
you
of it's kind
mentioned
of it's kind of funny you say that, because that's one of the reasons that I quit riding horses for a living, was
mhm,
because I can honestly say there was a handful of what I would consider colts that I
mhm,
started through the years. Most of them were problem horses that
mhm.
the owner, didn't have respect or screwed them up, and then I was fixing those problems way more than I was actually what I would consider starting a colt. Because
Mhm.
you run a colt off the hills. There's not much to start in a colt that's run off the
Yeah.
hills. They don't have bad habits yet,
Mhm.
and
Blank sheet of
that's
paper.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm. That's the thing, man. And I would say, man, the majority of people I'm around that that mess with horses, and I'll tell the people who don't ride or whatever, because man, honestly, there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that do not cowboy, which
Hmm.
is pretty incredible to me. Um, every single horsemanship principle I've ever learned applies to children, dogs, and other humans.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty incredible. And once you understand the principles and discipline yourself to the principles, all of it becomes pretty simple.
Right.
And so when it comes to a horse, like, most of the time, if you have a person who has a really rough horse, they don't understand the principles and they don't have discipline, and the horse knows that they don't know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and they're cheating you. They're just
Hmm.
freaking, they're natural born skeptics and cheats. And I
Yep.
don't blame them. I'm not letting Bill get on me and go to snatching me around. I mean, I would be
Right.
the worst horse ever. Like, you
Right.
better mind your P's and Q's, man. Like, so
That's right.
once the horse learns that they know you don't know, mm-mm. And as
Right.
soon as you get on them and they know you do know, they're a
Yep.
totally different animal.
Yep.
It's a totally different thing.
Yep.
So it's pretty interesting to watch people and people with horses. It's pretty
Hmm.
fun to kind of get into that, unless you're the one fixing the horse and then sending it back. That's not
Right.
fun.
Yeah.
Every horse trainer I've ever talked to is like, that's the worst part of the job, is you get a
It
horse
real.
nice and send him back.
Yes. And I said that in a TikTok I made the other day. I said, I've had some people upset with me because I sent a horse home, and quite frankly, the horse was more educated than they were, and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
get along, and they took that as the horse not being trained well. the horse was just smart enough to take advantage of him.
100%.
And to piggyback that, what changed my way, really how I started colts was I lived and worked with Jeff Griffith. I don't know if you know Jeff or not. He's a Montana cowboy, and he did clinics for a while. But Jeff said, quit trying to get the horses good and get them to tolerate the human.
Mm-hmm.
And that really changed when you're starting colts for the public. That really changed how I kind of went about things, because I quit trying to make the horse super awesome to go home.
Mm-hmm.
I just got the horse to where he could tolerate the human's inefficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And that then it was more horses going home, more bomb proof, so to speak, than they were like really in your hand and really come off your leg good to ride. Because
Mm-hmm.
most of the people here in Iowa, they trail ride. They don't need a bridle horse. They need a plug that the world can fall apart on and just keep walking down the trail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we've never really got into selling horses. We've sold a few.
Yeah.
Like literally, dude, we've had guys come like test our horses,
Yeah.
and we're selling them nice. You know, they're freaking nice.
Right.
And the guy can't even ride them.
Yep.
And it's like, dude, that's the brokest horse I've ever ridden. Like,
Yeah.
what is happening? And Brodog can't even get him to turn right and left.
Right.
You get on and you know how to do what we do, I guess. And that sucker's swacking around like he's just like boom, 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 right in between your legs and your ears. And and so we quickly were like, man, we just keep ours nice and like we'll ride. You know, Dad and them will take outside horses and take them to work and stuff, but we rarely buy them to sell them. We just buy them to keep them for us. And it just like that gelding, that stingy one I was talking about, we've been trying to sell him for like 2 years and just can't find somebody. Like, you just can't sell him for what he's worth to us, like what it would cost us to replace him to a cowboy, because it's just too much money. And his papers are freaking, not that you can ride papers, but like he's an own son of Kit Kat Sugar. Like, he's a freaking nice horse, you know? So we just keep him. He's our only gelding, and he'll buck you off from time to time. But dang it, when you go to Dr. Neerland's on him, he is a lot of fun. And so one day, whatever, he'll get over it one day. But he got a lot of heart, and usually those geldings don't have any heart. You cut that right out of them. You know what I mean? They're just puke. So, it's rare to find one with that. So, how long have you been married?
I think it's 16 or 17 years. Hell, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in there.
Now, you mentioned you had a lot of kids.
Yep.
How much is a lot?
we got 10.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All yours, or did you go get a few, or?
No, they're my wife and I's.
Oh my gosh, dude. All right. So what's that look like?
It's pretty, I was an only child. So for me, I love the chaos because I grew up by myself. I talk to myself a lot, and that's probably why. So I enjoy the noise. Now, my wife, on the other hand, she had 2 sisters, and so sometimes, it's a lot. But it's I guess I don't really know any better, because I have been an only child. I think all the commotion and stuff going on is just great. Now, it gets a little tough because 7 of those are autistic, and 5 of the 7 are severely or profoundly autistic, nonverbal, and they'll always live with us. So, but I have a good time. I mean, it changes things a little, but I always tell people it goes in sets. You can go up to 3 in life. Well, you can have 1, and then from 1 you can go to 3, and that life doesn't change. And then from 3 you can go to 7, and then from 7 you can pretty much go on. And that because that's pretty much your car sizes. If you think about your car sizes, like you can have 3 kids and you can put them all in the same kind of vehicle. You go more than that, you're going to have a van. You go more than that, you're going to have one of them big Amish passenger vans. So, so that's kind of
what y'all are rocking right now? Y'all
oh yeah, 15 passenger, you bet.
That is freaking nuts. So So said 7 out of the 10 are autistic, but 3 out of the 7 are nonverbal. What
Yeah,
is the reasoning for that? Did the doctors give you any? I mean, it's
they
just.
don't. We've done genetic testing. Um, Not really anything that stood out there. Um, then it's just kind of up in the air. What is the deal? Why all of a sudden has autism become so prevalent?
Hmm.
And I don't want to say the worst part about it, but the hard part about it is with most disabilities, you pretty much know it at birth, or
Hmm.
sometimes, if you had a scan, you would know it before birth. With autism, a lot of times it's not real prevalent. It's not something you're going to even get diagnosed until sometimes they're 3 or 4 or later.
Hmm.
So, and I've had some shade at times, people say, well, if you have so many kids, why did you keep having kids if you had these with disabilities? Well, my daughter was the first, she's number 4. And by the time she was diagnosed, we had 3 other kids.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the tough part of with the autism is you don't really get a diagnosis till later in life, because for a while they thought she was deaf.
Hmm.
Um, and then you don't really know until later, and so you're kind of in it by the time you find out much about it. And the thing with the autism is too is that we found out. I pretty much, how old is she? She's going to be 13 this year. So almost 10 years ago, I pretty much ruined my shoeing business because we were rushing to all these appointments. And a
Hmm.
lot of times the autism appointments, specialists are a lot of times 2, 3, 4 years out. And if
Hmm.
they have a cancellation, they just go down the list like a telemarketer, and the first person to answer gets the appointment. Well, my wife was stay at home at that point, and so she would be like, "Hey, tomorrow," or there was even times it would be like, "Hey, this afternoon, um, can can we get in?" And of course, not knowing at the time, um, you're wanting to get your kid all the therapies and all the appointments so that hopefully you can have the best chance of them leading a more full life. And so I would reschedule and reschedule and reschedule. And I understand people aren't going to deal with that, like I get it, but it was that was definitely not knowing. That was kind of how we conducted it, because I was like, well, you're going to do anything and everything you can for your kids to no end.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, like it wouldn't have really changed much, you know.
Hmm.
But that's all stuff in hindsight that you find out later,
Yeah.
type of stuff. So
You're. I cannot imagine the toll that your marriage took during this.
yeah, 80% of autism couples with one autistic child, 80% end in divorce.
What?
Yes, 80% of marriages end in a divorce with one autistic child. So the fact that my wife and I are still together is an anomaly, just straight up an anomaly. Just, and I think it's just a testament of both of us just have a lot of just flat, no quit, just
Just
no quit
grit.
in us. Yep,
Gosh, man, that's a crazy statistic.
it is, but it autism just absolutely, you know how it is. Kids pump the brakes on life. They
Yeah,
do. They pump brakes on
hard.
life. Yeah, autism just throws the e-brake. I mean, just
Gosh.
throws the e-brake. And so it's tough because everything changes, and I'm sure it's the same with a lot of disabilities. I don't know. I only know, the autism part of it, but like just life just absolutely grinds to a halt. And
Hmm.
so many things in life have to change. And not just your time, but house modifications for your house. Because we had one that was an elopement risk,
Hmm.
which, you know, people, you turn around, your kids in a different room, and you're like, where did they go? Well, you take
Yeah.
that times 1,000, and that's what a kid with autism, if they're an elopement risk, is like. Like they're just
Hmm.
gone, boom.
Hmm.
And to get into some faith, I really truly believe that that's a key point of the devil sticking his hand in there, because they'll never ever do it while you're looking. It's
Hmm.
always the second you're distracted or you have to turn around that boom, they're gone.
Hmm.
And so for example, used to do, we homeschool, but we had the special needs kids, or the three older of the special needs kids in summer school
Mm-hmm.
and program from the school. Well, they decided to take one of our paras, which is an aide, and without telling us, which was illegal, but they were wanting to save money and allocate it somewhere else. But anyway, my son eloped, and the
Mm-hmm.
teacher broke her ribs getting over the fence to go get him. And it was by grace of God that they planted beans, because there was a crop field beside the school. It was by grace of God that they planted beans that year and not corn.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they'd have planted corn that year, I don't know that we'd ever found him.
That is insane.
It is. It's you can't process it until you've been around it. Like there's no, you just can't. You can't wrap your mind around it without being firsthand in it.
Well, I had so my first job in high school, I worked at the YMCA. I was a camp
Yeah,
counselor at the YMCA,
gotcha.
and I had kindergarten and first grade boys. So we had
Yep.
about 30 of them between the two of us. And they always put the special needs kids with the little ones. And
Right.
there was this
Right.
gal, man, her name was Cameron. And I will never forget this because I was scared shitless.
Mm-hmm.
But she was with us. She was probably 13, maybe 14
Right.
years old. And I didn't know what she had. We just knew she had special needs. Like she still wore
Right.
diapers and stuff. And we didn't have to
Right.
change
Yep.
any of that. They had somebody to do all that. She just kind of
Right.
tagged along with us and went to the pool and the pond and all that.
Right.
Well, my second summer, she freaking ran off.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
we were at the gym during car rider pickup, and I'm standing there at the door with the walkie-talkie. They're calling kids, and I'm just letting her rip, hollering at kids. And
Right.
it's funny, a funny story. We'd have about 200 kindergartners in that gym, and there was 4 counselors, which is not a great ratio there.
Right.
No. There was 8 counselors because there was 4 boy counselors and 4 girl
Right.
ones, but
Right.
we would
Right.
all come together. And I taught them kids to sit to a whistle.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I would whistle, and the whole gym would just
Drop.
and then I'd pick a kid out, your mom's here, and then they go back to
Right. Right.
playing. And so we're sitting there, and I'm at the door calling kids, and Cameron comes just out the door and runs off in the woods. It was like a
Right.
wood, like it was a big camp, and it took us 3 hours to find her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every counselor on the place was hunting this kid, and
Yep.
I was the one that lost her. And my boss was
Yep.
like, "What happened?" I was like, "Dude, she just took off running. I
Gone.
ain't never
Yep.
seen nothing like it,
Yep.
So okay, hey, get your brother another one. I was like, I ain't never seen nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaking nuts. So
Yep.
a cornfield gone, son.
Yeah.
You ain't
Yeah.
never finding
Yeah.
that. You ain't never finding
Nope.
that dude. That
Nope.
is wild. So your wife. So your first 3 are completely no autism.
The second oldest boy is high functioning. So
Okay.
think like like you ever been around one of those kids in school? Well, you have, that was just exceedingly smart but weird.
Yes.
That more than likely they're high functioning autistic. Like
Mm-hmm.
they don't get social cues. Like when he was 13, he's older now, but when he was like 13, he still wanted to hug his buddies. And like
Yeah.
that's not 13, 14-year-old boys don't hug each other. So like
Mm-hmm.
the social cues like that, they don't quite pick up on. But exceedingly, when he was, I don't know how old he was, but like I said, we homeschool and we were doing math. And all of a sudden he started doing math in Spanish. And we're like, where did you come up with that? Well, his sister had a fascination with Dora the Explorer. So just by watching Dora, he had picked up enough Spanish to do math in Spanish.
What?
So like, yeah. So like exceedingly like crazy. So like your they speculate that like your Mozart and your Einstein, like those type of people were probably high functioning autistic.
Yeah.
Cause their brain will just like, he can just math, is just bam, 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 just hammer it out like it's nothing.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Math and Spanish? I can't do math and English.
Yeah. Right.
That's
Right.
wild. And
Yep.
from watching Dora? Come
Joe
on,
watching
dude.
Dora. Yep.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. So how old is your oldest?
He is 19. The oldest boy
Okay.
is.
So
Yep.
he's probably had quite a big hand in helping raise a
Yes.
bunch of youngins.
Yeah. He he when he turned 16, he definitely he helped quite a bit. That eased things. Now the oldest three boys are, let's see, Jake's 19, Joe's 17, and Wyatt's gonna be 15 here in a couple months.
Hmm.
So that has helped a lot. Just another set of eyes um, that just can really it has eased the load a
Yeah.
lot. But we try to be very careful to not lean on them too much,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, for
But
sure. I mean, that's that I could definitely see where that could be. But I mean, you start, I don't know. I can see both sides of that. In the goal of raising men, the the responsibility falls to all. Like I
mhm,
have quite a high expectation of my 6 year old with my 2 year old. Like,
yep, yep,
we have had several conversations. Like, you're your brother's keeper. Like,
right, right.
if I send him out here with you, dadgummit, you better be watching him.
That's
And
right. Yep.
um, like a couple of weeks ago, dude, they were out practicing the old golf swing, and Wiley's the big one. He told Waylon to move. He was like, "Hey man, move. I'm about to hit this golf ball." And Waylon didn't move, so Wiley just did it anyway. Just cracked his brother in the head with a golf club. And I got home and I was like, "Dude, what's wrong with you?" And he's like, "He didn't move." I was like, "Well, I mean, next
Well,
time I reckon he'll move." I mean,
yep,
what are you
yep.
supposed to do? But I just, man, that my mind keeps trickling back to the marriage here. Like,
Hmm.
I cannot imagine the just y'all must be like some lighthearted people to be able to be happy and drift through life, like to lay in bed at night and go, man, thank God for what he's given us, and we're gonna enjoy it. I don't know if it's
It's
always been that way, but
no. It's been. I mean, I'll be straight honest with you. My wife will tell you the same thing. There has been times that it's been like, it's straight up been like, what are the we can't even we can't divorce because the kids, because they're autistic, they couldn't go back and forth between houses.
mm-mm.
Um, Parents coming in and out would because autistic people in general want a routine, and they want things very structured, and things outside of that really upset them. And so I mean there's straight up been times that like we've just been like, well, let's just be roommates. I mean, and there's been times that the kids have just straight up, I know a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't stay together for the kids. Well, sometimes I think that's a lie from the devil, because you know what, your kids are pretty damn important, and
Mm-hmm.
raising your kids are pretty important. And I'm not talking about abuse, and that sort of business. Things, there's definitely things that are too extreme, but for the most part, I think a lot of people just give up. And even though her and I there was times where it would be easier. Like there was times where it would be like, my gosh, if I could just get away every other weekend just to get my sanity back, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it really boiled down to the kids. The kids couldn't take it, and so we gutted it out. And then it's like everything in life: the storm comes through. You get to the other side of the storm's gone, and you're like, "Wow, I'm glad I didn't do anything rash or, um, wild, just because the storm's here. Because now it's past and things aren't what they were."
Mm-hmm.
And I link it a lot to the military. You go through some of the training that you go through, or at least in the Army anyway. You look at like Ranger School and stuff. Like you go through that stuff, and you're like, you get through it, and you're like, well, hell, that sucked, but
Mm-hmm.
here I am. And I think, I'm telling you, man, my wife, I think she would go through like Navy SEAL BUDS training and not even blink. Like her mental capacity for stress. She's a nurse too, but I mean, just like she has got to be the most mentally strong person I've ever met in my life. Like
Bro, You
She
ain't
just,
dumping no
oh,
10 kids off on a Navy SEAL. They ain't coming. I don't give
no,
a
they ain't
damn.
coming out.
You
No.
bring Jocko in here today. You
Yeah.
bring him in here today. You dump your youngins in his house. We'll
Yep.
see.
Yep.
We'll see.
Exactly. Yep.
Jocko,
Yep.
challenge. Here's your
Challenge.
new.
Yep.
You think jujitsu's hard, buddy?
Yep.
That ain't no joke.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine the. But you know something that somebody said to me a long time ago. I can't remember when it was. I was bartending or something. But the grass is greener on the other side because there's shit in it.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's a
right.
fact,
Yeah.
Jack. I
That is a
mean, like,
fact.
it ain't no better on the other side of that thing. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Someone saying out loud to my face would have an immediate problem on their hands. You shouldn't stay together for the kids.
Right.
We're about to have some problems. Like, I'll
Hmm.
argue that till I'm blue in the
Right.
face. And the
Right.
reason why I'll argue it is you shouldn't stay together for the kids. You should stay together because you made a covenant with Christ.
Yes. Yeah.
You should stay together because you made a promise. And like, ain't nobody said that shit was going to be easy.
No.
Nobody.
No. That's right.
No. And your example is like the most extreme on earth. But the fact of the matter is that every single marriage is going to have this, and a bunch
Hmm.
of people are weak-hearted quitters.
Yeah.
Period.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
reason in the Bible to get divorced.
Hmm.
One.
I believe
And
it's
let me tell you
abuse.
something.
Yep.
I guess abuse and adultery. Those are the
Yep.
two reasons. So
Yep.
there's two reasons.
Yep.
Excuse me, fact check. But and I say this all the time. Every young man I meet, I say this. And everybody always talks about cheating or adultery or all the things. Let me tell you something, son. I ain't throwing away my marriage for 3 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm going to throw
Right.
away my kid's life, my opportunity to raise my children for 3 minutes.
Right.
Come
Yeah,
on,
right.
guy. Like,
Nope.
let's be real. Let's be honest here. It's just
Hmm.
silly to me.
Yep.
I think about it all the time, and I think about me and my wife talk about it quite frequently, and we only have 2 kids. But it's like you start talking about people who go and run around on their spouse, and it's like, man, who has the time for that? What are you serious? What are we building a
Yeah.
relationship with somebody else? Like, who?
Right.
What are you talking about? You know. But we pack our youngins around like good dogs. Like, they just come everywhere with
Hmm.
us, and
Yeah.
I love it. Like, they come to the rope shop every single day. My oldest is in there untwisting tie strings. Half the time he's
Yep.
crying because he doesn't want to be doing it, you know.
Yeah.
And I just like, hey man, we got to work, you know. And
It
it's
is what it
good.
is. Yeah.
It's a good deal. And I'm not saying that uh, anything's unredeemable. You know what I'm saying? Like, Christ
Hmm.
forgives us all. Um, the people I'm talking to are the people who would decide that because I'm not getting my needs met, I'm going to run out and go
Right.
ruin my entire life for 3 minutes of getting my needs
Right.
met, when really you're
Right.
just destroying something God made beautiful. When really, if probably you just sit down and have a conversation, you get a lot of stuff handled.
There you go. That's the main point. And I love your TikToks made like, you know, vacuum the carpet. You
Hey,
know what
let's
I'm
go,
saying?
baby.
Like,
Let's
like
go.
it is a two-way street, you know, because I can tell you right now, I'm gonna have a really good week if my wife comes in the house and I've cleaned the tub and I've washed the freaking toilet, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
and the sink and I've got the mirrors washed. Like, it's gonna be a good week. I mean,
There's no
that's the way
doubt.
it's gonna be. You know, they have a different love language than we do, and I think you hit the nail on the head. And I just love those TikToks you made, just calling men out, like, dude, you can't walk into the house every day and just think that you're some overly desirable thing, you
Get
know? Like, you got to
get
put
out of
some
here.
in the bank too, you know?
Yes, yes, and it's funny. It's funny to me because so I have this philosophy, and I have a friend of mine and it was always a theory for a long time. This was a theory, and then I had a friend of mine. We started talking about marriage, and like for a year, hey, don't do that. Hey, don't do that, Bill. What are you doing? Um, so it was always this theory where a couple of years ago I decided. You want to sit with me? You want Wiley to come on? No, I can't. I'm talking. You can go play with Wiley? ¿Por qué? Come on, man. Wiley, bring your brother in there and play with him. Take your brother and go play with him. Okay, well, after that. So I had this theory, okay? A couple of years ago, I had the conversation with, I think it was my brother-in-law or something, and they were having trouble, and me and my wife had trouble after our firstborn, and I just really got to diving into this. It's like, okay, like, what am I doing wrong? And so me personally, I was like, okay, I'm going to outwork my wife tenfold. And that has nothing to do with my job. It has everything to do with at home, right?
Right.
And so I started doing it, and it changed my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started having this conversation with my buddy about his wife and his struggles in this same area, that's what I kept telling him. I was like, outworker, right? And they were having some money issues, and he called me up one day, and he was like, man, we just don't have enough money for groceries. And your wife's security is like a huge part of her sex drive. Like, if she feels uncomfortable or unsafe, boy, that thing dries up. It's over with. You can hang that up. So
100%.
I told him, I was like, you ain't working hard enough. Like, get another job. And for the last 4 years, actually November of last year is when I quit for good. I bartended at night. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd make 310 videos or cowboy during the day, and I'd go bartend at night so my wife could stay home with the kids. And like, I had no trouble doing it. I like bartending. It's kind of fun. And so anyways, he started to see a change, and it took a long time, bro, like a long time. But he started to see a change, and I was like, holy this like actually kind of works. Like, what the heck, you know? And it was right about the time I was making the podcast and all that stuff. And so I started doing some research. So I started looking up, Wiley, come get your brother out of the bathroom, buddy. Hey, hustle up. Yes, sir, is what we're hunting there. So right about the time we got the podcast going, he's seeing some changes. So I started doing some research, and I started looking up, like I would Google search everything the Bible says a husband should do. Mm-hmm. Right. And then I would Google search everything the Bible says a wife should do. Mm-hmm. And I made these bullet point lists. Well, the man's list was 18 things, and the wife's list was 9 things.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, maybe not 10 times. Maybe 10 times is over the top, but 2 times for sure. Like, that shit's biblical. And so I started applying this to my life, and we have this men's group on Tuesday nights, and me and the guys talk about it. And they'll come in, and they'll be like, man, I'm just so wore out after work. And like, expecting the other men in the group, me included, to be like, yeah, man, I get it.
Yeah.
That's not where I live, Brandon. I don't live in that world. I live in the world of shut the up and get after it. You know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. Quit being candy and freaking get after it. And then you have conversations with guys like you, who our lives, as far as busyness, aren't even close. I mean, it's not even close, man, to what you probably deal with on a daily basis. You know what I mean?
Right.
Go get him.
Yeah. Come on, well, it's man. Like my oldest son, you know, I kind of kick him in the rear once in a while. He's a musician, very, very good guitar player.
Are we talking rock, country, or
rock mainly? He's a 70s, 80s rock enthusiast. Oh yeah. But you know, he was wanting to succeed, and you know, he was, well, I just don't have it was about a year ago, maybe 2, and I just really kicked him in the teeth, not literally, but I kicked him in the rear, and I was like, listen, dude, I rodeoed. I know what it takes to grind. You're not grinding, man. Mm-hmm. You're not. You know, you say you are, but you know, the thing is, on these phones these days, I can get on and look at your screen time.
Yeah.
You ain't grinding.
Mm-hmm.
You're not. And I kind of had a heart-to-heart, you know, one of those, like, let's go to the yard and talk about it type talks. And by God, he kicked her in gear, and then all of a sudden doors started opening, and he got with a guy that was in town there that has produced some records and, all kinds of stuff. And I think you need people to hold you accountable and say, dude, like, I know you think that you're doing the deal, but you're not. You're
Yes.
just flat not doing it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
kick it in gear. You've got more. You've got
Yes.
more. And I think a lot of people, uh, they need to embrace the suck a little bit, as we say in the Army. You got to embrace the suck and
Mm-hmm.
find some joy in it, because there are things that just, it isn't fun, but you just got to waller through it and get through it, or you're not going to go anywhere.
100%. And I've talked about this with other guys on the podcast here, but like, it's funny how in stages of your life you think you're working hard and you have
Yeah.
no clue what's
No.
coming.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
idea what
Yeah.
the true capacity is. And it's like Daryl when he called me and I said, man, you're go get another job. He started driving Uber Eats at night,
Mm-hmm.
and like it you think it's gonna suck. You think it's gonna suck, but it's really rewarding. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
come home and hand your wife that money and go, hey, you go buy groceries. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
like,
You bet.
freaking let's go, baby.
Yeah.
I'm the one. Like, and I when the rope shop moved here, so little short story here. So we originated in Alabama. It was me, my dad, and my stepmom who started it, and I worked for the company for free for about a year and a half,
Right.
with the goal of getting my wife home. My wife was also a nurse when we first got married, and really for about the first 4 years of our marriage, she was a nurse. And the we moved the company to Oklahoma, and we were there for a little while, about a year, and then we moved to Wyoming, and we did Wyoming for a summer, and then we came back to Oklahoma. Well, through all of this, we started having some family trouble, and my folks ended up getting split, and so because of that, we ended up moving the company back to Alabama, where I live now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a terrible, terrible thing. And honestly, I don't even know what to say about it other than that's what happened, and that's where we are now. And but I would tell my wife, like when we first moved it, I knew I've always been the marketing guy. Like that's always been my role with 310. I've always done the video editing and the gathering the film, and of course I cowboyed, but part of me cowboying was like my saddlebags were full of drones and GoPros. Everybody else had the dope. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
And
Yep.
so I would go out and cowboy, and I'd get everybody outfitted with cameras and do all the shooting and the editing, and so and quite frankly, I was really good at that. I was really good at two things. I was good at roping. For whatever reason, God gave me an ability to rope a cow with a fancy shot. I mean, like I don't know what to say other than that. Nobody should be able to do what I can do with a rope in 8 years. I mean, it's just God handed it to me and was like, "Here you go, buddy. You're
Mm-hmm.
welcome." And I was also good at turning that film into marketing footage. Like
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, what I was doing just worked really well. And so we've grown a lot over the last 8 years. And then we shifted roles. So my stepmom was kind of the CEO of the deal, and my dad was, in there too. And now he's out gathering the film. She does the books, and my, oversees acquisition, so to speak. So she gets all my products across the border for me. But I'm basically the general manager. I manage all
Right.
daily operations, all future operations, all of it, all the marketing still. And there was this part of me that was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I've been working from home for a very long time. And I'm really good at sitting down at a computer and making a video, sell a bunch of rope. But this is a new venture for me. And as I started getting into it, I was very unconsciously incompetent. Like I did not know that I did not know.
Right.
And I would tell
Mm-hmm.
my wife, I would come home and I'd tell my wife, I would be like, I am a freaking monster. Like, and this wasn't because I actually am. This was me telling myself, you're a fucking monster. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to have to be a monster to do this. And I still to this day, we're 6, 7 months in now. Every day I wake up and look at myself in the mirror and go, you got to be a fucking monster today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm taking people who don't know how to coil a rope. You hear
Right.
me? And teaching them how to tie them. Like, it's just a terrible place on earth to have a rope shop. It really is. I got one gal that works for me that is incredible. Like, she is the kind. My stepdad helps me out a bunch. He's pretty good at tying. But everybody else, we're grinding through trying to get the thing right. And I had no idea the capacity for work that I actually had inside. I thought I had worked hard before.
Right.
And then the struggles in my marriage that have come from this. And it's not necessarily like my wife giving me shit about working a lot. That's not,
Right.
it's me allowing the outside stress of the world to affect my attitude towards her and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been like a straight street brawl with the enemy about this. And, I've been trying to quit drinking and not trying. We have succeeded in that regard. But it's been all of the things that are not profitable for you when you start really working hard towards your goals start to fall away like scales on your eyes. It's like, if it is not profitable and is not efficient and it is not helping you, you can't have it. You can't do it. It's just not good.
Yep.
And I imagine through your experiences with your kids and owning your own business, you've experienced this as well.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I was very fortunate. My stepdad, as far as physical work, we always joke that I was raised about half Amish because I had to dig post holes by hand and clean the barn by hand when we had a tractor and a loader and we had a post hole digger. But like the ranch would have all new fence if I could have used the post hole digger. But but it taught me like real long, hard, terrible, this just sucks days. And so like moving forward, that my problem isn't necessarily with the physical capacity as it is with the mental capacity, because I have a very, I don't want to say short fuse, but I have a very violent temper. So I can drink, go out with buddies and drink and smoke a pack of cigarettes and then not touch it again. I can go on a long trip and chew a can of Copenhagen and not touch it again. My drug of choice is anger. Like, and my dad's that way. Like, and so that's where I've always struggled. And what makes that exceedingly hard is, and I'm sure you were probably raised this way, that, well, you just shouldn't be mad. And so it was always that constant struggle of, but I am. Like, and this situation is bullshit. And I'm mad about it, but the world wanted to be like, well, you just shouldn't be mad. Shouldn't be mad about anything. And so, that's
it's
a fight.
It's not Christ-like to be mad.
Yeah. And it's like, no, I got older, and my retort to that is, I don't know about you, but I remember reading in the Bible, Jesus flipping tables and whipping people out of the church. So there's a time and place for anger, but that's my biggest downfall, because dealing with the public and in my marriage too is just that. And I can handle big things. I thrive in chaos. The more shit's falling apart, the calmer I get. It's the little like, oh, the pin fell off the table and I'm just like, I can't take it,
Yes.
Yeah, like, you got to be kidding me right now.
Yes.
And so like, that's always been my biggest downfall, and it's closed a million doors for me, and and like you were talking about, teaching people about stuff they have no capacity. It's just not a culture, right?
Yes.
And like where I grew up, I was very lucky that mom got into, well, it was Bucks. She got into going to Bucks clinics. When he was very first got started here in Iowa, Podunk, Iowa, he was doing clinics. And then so I got put into that horsemanship ideal in a very young age. But then when I got older, like, I didn't have anybody to help. Like, if I had one that was really sorry and I needed somebody like you to like rope a back leg for me to get by, like, I couldn't do it because there was literally no one around that I could trust to do that, they're either
Mm-hmm.
they're either I don't want to say wannabes because some of them do some cowboying, but they're like, I don't know how to explain it. Like tied on, jerking cows down. Not that there isn't a time and place for that, but like there's no horsemanship, stockmanship to it. It's all
Yeah.
rough and tumble cowboy type stuff, and I don't necessarily would trust them to not get me or a horse hurt. You
In the
know,
bind, yeah.
So, right? You know what I mean? Like and damn sure ain't nobody using a long rope that knows anything
No.
about sliding any sort of rope. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I get being in that position where you are, like where you're just not in a culture that's conducive to what you're doing, and then you're just
Mm-hmm.
beating your head against the wall trying
Yeah.
to get this done in a setting that is not set up for it.
Yeah.
And
No,
and
for
that's
sure.
where my struggle is the most right there is being able to keep a good attitude about something and not let that, because that's my drug of choice,
Mm-hmm.
is the anger. And I remember in a we were sitting in a Bible study, and the preacher was like, you need to surround yourself with people, which is good, but he's like, you wouldn't say some of that stuff to a 300-pound NFL linebacker, and I'm like, oh yes, I would. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
no question.
you no idea. Like the good Lord Himself be standing here, and I see red, and I'd be like, I'll say it to him. Might not
Yeah.
end well, but I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
So that's
No,
that's been that's been my struggle.
well, and like
Dealing with
what you're
that sort of
doing,
stuff.
like I'm sure you've taken a rasp and jabbed a 1,200-pound horse
Oh
right in the
yeah,
ribs. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Like just,
yeah,
I mean, I've done it. I mean,
yeah,
dadgummit, you gonna quit standing on me, you sorry piece of junk.
yeah,
Like, come
yeah.
on, you got 3 other legs, bro. What's
You're
wrong with
right,
you? I'm
right.
telling you. And that's the thing, man. And this is where I think men miss it. This is where I think the world misses it, dude. Is that the common misconception is you find Christ and you're just like him. And you're
Hmm.
freaking not. You're not. And you're not gonna be. You're not gonna be tomorrow. You're not gonna be 10
Right.
years from now. So for for anyone who doesn't know, 3:10 was named after Philippians 3:10.
Hmm.
And so it says, for my determined purpose is to come to know the King and share in his sufferings. And here's the part, in order to be transformed into his likeness.
Hmm.
So, what do you have to do to be like Christ?
Right.
You have to freaking suffer.
Yep.
You
Yep.
have to suffer. And so,
Right.
I'm just going to make an assumption here, and you tell me how wrong I am. I'm going to say that the thankfulness you have for your family
Hmm.
and the members of your family that have been the hardest, right, have not only been probably some of the most joyful moments of your life, but also some of the most deep mental, physical, and emotional suffering you've probably ever endured. And then the ability to control your anger around them because you have to, right, is
Hmm.
a transformative thing into you becoming more Christ-like.
Oh, very much so. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because especially, I will say my second oldest boy, because he is high functioning, it's hard to blur that line between you should know better and your brain doesn't work that way. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said earlier, to be around him, you're just like, well, you're just kind of a little different,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's things that you would assume he should just know, but he doesn't. And that's really transformed me, in the fact that, you got to really understand that some people, a lot, and it's kind of like a horse too. Like you got to understand where they're coming from and quit
Mm-hmm.
assuming that they just know.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say though that, and you'll find this when your kids get older. My oldest son is one of the hardest critics when it comes to being Christ-like. And the easiest way I can explain this is, and I guarantee you'll deal with this when your kids are older. I was raised, my grandmother went to church, but that was about the extent of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I went to a daycare that was Christian, and so I accepted God at a young age. But anyway, long story short, my kids are raised in the church. And we've always raised them in a faith word-based church. And so he's read the Bible twice. And it kind of makes me laugh because I can remember Buck one time at a clinic. This gal said, "What would you do if your colt did this?" And he said, "They don't." And she goes, "Well, but what if they did?" And he goes, "They won't, they don't." Because it's never been a thing. Like it was
Yeah.
never, it just wasn't a thing. So like for my son, like he looks at me sometimes and he's like, "Dude, what, why are you struggling?" Because for him, like it's never been a struggle because it was never brought up in
Mm-hmm.
his life. And one thing that we didn't like with the homeschooling, where did you learn all the bad stuff that you know?
Mm-hmm. School.
Back of the bus.
School, son.
In school. Like the back of the bus, man, the first curse words. No, I wouldn't say the first, but like really letting language fly, back of the bus. First set of headlights, back of the
Yep.
bus. First drink, chew, back of the bus. Well, my kids
Yep.
never had that
Mm-hmm.
because they were homeschooled. And so like
Yep.
he looks at me and it's like, dude, you need to be more Christ-like. And sometimes it's like, but you don't know the influences that I'm like trying to get rid of here because I've
Yeah.
had that influence and you just don't do it because it's never been a thing. Kind of like Buck's
Yeah.
Colts. They don't ever pull back because it was never a thing.
Yeah.
And so,
Nothing to pull back against.
yeah, it was never there. So I'm sure
Yeah.
you'll see that with your guys when they get older, because there's going to be stuff that they're going to look at you and be like, "Dad, you preach all this Christian stuff, but you fight this."
Yes.
But you have to understand that they're not going to fight that
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a thing for them. They've never been exposed. The enemy is not going to have near the hold on them as he did on you. And so their viewpoint is going to be a little different, even to the point of like, "Come on, old man, you talk a big game. Why aren't you following your own words?"
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like you got to remember that they're not fighting the influences that people who've been out in the world are fighting.
Gosh. Ladies and gentlemen with young children, here's the goal.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
goal. I mean, really,
yeah,
that
yeah.
that
It
is
is
the goal.
absolutely,
That's wild,
absolutely.
man. That's I'm pretty funny about showing my kids my junk.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm very open, like way more
Right.
than most people, because that's what kept me from Christ for a really long time.
Right.
Was never seeing any fault in my father, never seeing fault in my grandfather, like sharing the mistakes. And
Mm-hmm.
since then, like that's how I came to know Christ. Was working with my dad day in and day out on a ranch, and then we became friends, and he started, being normal.
Mm-hmm.
And but my grandfather was the same way. Like I've learned things that he struggled with in his life that I never in a million years would have thought. But if he'd have sat down with me when I was 15 years old and said,
Yes.
"This will
Yeah.
get you right here, buddy.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
you stay off of this shit. This ain't it."
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and so cussing and carrying on and struggling and drinking and crying and being pissed and all that, my 6-year-old sees all of it.
Yeah.
And I am very quick to apologize and to
Mm-hmm.
explain my wrongness because I'm like, man, it's coming. You're going to be right here,
Yeah.
like you my demons are going to be some of my demons are going to be your demons, and
Right.
and
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
quicker you learn how to fight them, the better off you're going to be. And
That's right.
that's really cool though, man. That's freaking awesome. Like that gives me a lot of hope. Uh that what we're doing is right and what we're doing is
Mm-hmm.
good, because that's the question for a man almost every day of his life is like, how wrong am I? Because I
Right.
know I'm
Right.
wrong
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
how wrong?
Yeah. Well, it's like my 19-year-old. He's on a different shift now, but he was on a four. He had to be at work at 4 o'clock in the morning,
Hmm.
and then he'd work all day. He'd get home at 1 o'clock, and then he'd do his music stuff. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, God, I don't know. Like I haven't had to be at 4 o'clock anywhere in the morning since I was in the army. And for a 19-year-old kid this day and age, to
Yeah.
do that and do it consistently. It was kind of like, you were just like, maybe we did something right, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And to see I probably shouldn't. He won't care, but like he's still a virgin. He's still waiting for marriage. He's been very picky about girls and talking to girls, and he's been very good about guarding himself, which is just phenomenal because I was not very guardy that way at all, you know.
No.
And
No, I was a complete buffoon.
yeah, like it was. But I'm like you, like But my wife is also. She always sands on me. She says, they see you growl, so you need to make sure they see you repent just as
Mm-hmm.
loud as you growled.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been something that she really works on me and reminds me about, and I try to do, and it goes back to that. It's okay to be mad, it's okay to make mistakes, but you need to be just as open about fixing them.
Oh,
And
100%.
I see it with my buddies a lot. You know, there's a little bit of that. I suppose I'd call it pride, or that little bit of, yeah, we used to get drunk and chase women, like
Mm-hmm.
glorifying it.
Yes.
And yes, I did that. But one thing with my kids is I'm like, guys, it was nothing but a waste of money, a waste of time. And I'm lucky there ain't 20 of you running around that are
Mm-hmm.
taking my check.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was nothing really good about that.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing good about it. You know,
No.
like getting drunk. What's the good side of that? There's
Nothing.
nothing. It's a
There's nothing.
temporary fix. And
Mm-hmm.
I love to drink, but like you said, I'm very open with my boys. And if you want to talk about it, like here's the reality of it. I'm not going to tell you a
Mm-hmm.
yes or no or whatever the case may be, but here's the reality of it. And instead of spending, like I've got tattoos on my arms, and my kids want some tattoos. I'm like, guys, nothing against tattoos. I'm not going to tell you not to get tattoos, but I can tell you I wish I'd put that $300 somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I
Mm-hmm.
think as dads, sometimes we need to do that more. And like I said, I see my buddies perpetuate that thought process of, well, by God, in my day, we used to like glorifying it. And I tried
Right.
very hard not. Did I have some good times? You bet. But you can have a good time and not do that as
Yes.
well. And so that's what I really try. And I see my boys, they've done a lot better in that area of why waste my time with this when there's real goals that I want to accomplish and real
Mm-hmm.
things that I want to go do, instead of just because God, I'd give anything to have half the fortune I drank. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I would
Oh,
give anything for
100%.
that. Holy smoly.
We call them death roads.
Yeah.
And I have operated basically my entire life just running headfirst down every death road I could
Yeah.
find. And my redemption came uh, once I realized Christ was with me on every death road. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
good buddy that's like, hey, this is
Right.
a dumbass
This is
idea.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like you shouldn't do it, but
Right,
I'll go with you just to watch you. And then
right.
when you get done, I'll pile you back in the truck and we'll go
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
And lots of mine. See, what's funny is a death road is anything you put over your family or the king. So, like baseball for me
Mm-hmm.
was a death road because
Mm-hmm.
I was searching for acceptance
Right.
in something other than Christ. Bass fishing. I mean, I fished on ESPN. I mean, like I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I did it as high as you want to do it. Uh, I spent all my money on it, and some I didn't even have. Was in
Right.
debt for freaking the first 5 years of my marriage because of I was chasing a death road.
Right.
And there are hundreds of thousands of men that would have loved to have been in my position and would have looked at me and gone, I would do anything to be you.
Right.
And it was a death road.
Right.
It wasn't alcohol. It wasn't women. It wasn't, from the world's perspective, anything that is not glorifying the king is a damn death road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to get off of that sucker. And
Right.
once I realized this, I was like, okay, well, where is life? And I spent a lot of years recently searching for what God wanted me to do, and being very careful of the death road trap, like looking around at each opportunity and was like, is this like almost suspicious? Like,
Right, right, yeah.
And I'll tell you guys this, almost every life road that I have embarked on in the last 5 years is something I did not want to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This podcast
Yeah.
is one of them. This
Yeah.
podcast is one of them. The opportunities that have come from the podcast and the good that has come from this thing, unbelievable. It's the only reason I keep going. Do not want to do it. Do not have the time to do it.
Right.
But this is what God has asked me to do. I would much rather be sitting on a good horse somewhere, freaking hammering a calf with a hula hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that ain't what the King's got for me right now. So
Right.
I encourage you guys to look at what you're doing and ask yourself, is there life here?
Right.
Because if there's not, freaking drop what you're doing, turn around and walk the other way.
Right.
And that's what I think. I've been watching The Chosen, and it's such a, man, I wish I'd have watched it when it first came out, but when Jesus, these guys fished for a living, and when Jesus says to them, put down your nets and follow me and I'll make you fishers of men, that's the perfect example of what the world would say is a good career, right? You're offering food to people. We need this. And Jesus said, there's no freaking life in what you're doing. Let me show you where life is.
Yeah.
And I just like, man, when I saw it, I was like, because I literally did that. Like, I literally fished for a living, and was like, and I took all those fishing rods and sold everything I had. Everything I had was like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. I can't hardly go fishing for fun anymore. But it's such a clear depiction of all of those disciples of that guy had things that they did that were necessary in the world. And God said, there ain't a damn thing at the end of this road. Let me show you where it is. And of course we have to work and make money and all the things. But the fact is like, if you walk into your place of business every day and Jesus Christ doesn't come up out of your mouth, there ain't no life there, man. Like, if you can't have that conversation with the guy sitting next to you, even if he doesn't think the same way that you do. And that's why I truly believe that God made me to speak in the way that I speak, where I'm rough around the edges and just a normal dude. Because he sends me into places where Christians are not welcome. Yeah. Like, people don't want to hear that. They don't want it.
A good friend of mine, he always says, how do you clean a fish until you catch it?
Period.
And some of you, you're going to have the right bait to catch them, and sometimes it might stink. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might not have some real, and there's a lot of people. And back to my son, like, sometimes I get that on him, and because he doesn't have the mistakes, sometimes he struggles a little bit with. It's kind of like, I'll just say it. It's kind of like I don't know about now, but there were several years in there that Buck got pretty abrasive, just this side of rude. And it's because, well, he doesn't deal with that. Well, my son kind of got that way about Christ, because he's like, well, what the heck? Like, why? Well, but then he come off as like real preachy. And it's like, well, some of us have got some trash here. And, you get somebody on the side of the road slinging brimstone, a lot of people are just going to walk away from them.
Yeah, most young Christians are like that.
Yeah, and if you got some boy that's like, yeah, I've drank, I've slept around, I've done this, I've done that, then the people who are in that situation, they can look at it and be like, well, there's some hope for me, because that's the road I've led. And because it's amazing the amount of people that just don't think they're worth redeemed, or they don't think they can be redeemed. They really don't. They think they've gone too far. Yeah. And so they need somebody with a rough example and rough language to come in there and that they can relate to. And, and also I think a lot of people need to understand, when you talk about fishers of men, and God leading your life, I think a lot of people need to understand. And one of the biggest fallacies I see in our society right now is if you just work hard enough. Well,
Yeah.
there are some things in life like autism for me and my hips being replaced. And for you, it sounded like it was an arthritic
Yeah.
autoimmune disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are some things in life that it doesn't matter how bad you want it. Like you
Yeah.
can't sit on a horse
Mm-mm.
14 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can't do it. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I think like with autism with me, sometimes I think these kids needs to understand that there are going to be things in life that are going to change your path. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to be open to that. And I've done a lot of praying since I've had my hips done. Well, God, what do you want me to do? What is exactly are you after here? And
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my big paths now is doing the TikToks and trying to get across in the farrier culture and in the client culture that you can do things for your horses to stand better. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's my life road at the moment, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
always changes. And you know, we've always taught our boys to pray about it and that you should be led. One of the being a soldier and specifically an infantryman and having a hot temper, my question has always been when is violence key and or when's it acceptable? Because we always hear
Mm-hmm.
turn the other cheek, and every preacher I ever come across, I always say, well, when is violence acceptable? Because if you look at the Old Testament, the good Lord was not opposed to violence,
Yeah, no.
and
Not
yeah.
at all.
So I finally got an answer the other day, and he said, well, you got to be led, and I think that's one of the big things most Christians miss is that you can't hear God if you're not talking to God, and if you can't hear God, you can't be led by God. And
Mm-hmm.
so you've got to do your due diligence and walk with him so that you can hear him. Because there are so many times that, well, this sounds like you were talking, this sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably is a good idea. But if I don't feel led to do it, I'm going to end up down a death road.
Yeah.
Whereas there might be something that your flesh is like, oh, don't do it. This is not a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. Don't do it. But you're like, the Lord is telling me to jump head in here.
Oh,
And
100%.
you end up and like you said, 90% of the time it's something you don't want to do. You
Mm-hmm.
just don't want any part of it.
No,
But
no question. And I talked about this. I have a backlog of episodes that haven't come out yet, but the fact is like 2 weeks ago, I literally was begging God for an out
yeah,
from
absolutely.
the podcast. I was like, Lord, please, just God, please,
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
enemy, since I started it, the enemy has just been, I'm talking, just annihilating me. Okay,
yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
dude, get out of here. Like I'm
Right.
having knockdown dragouts with this guy, and I was just like, if I could just anything to get off of the pressure. Like if I could
Mm-hmm.
just, I feel like a horse that is in a corner and some dink with a flag is just like, and I'm just like, I am gonna lose my mind if
Right.
you don't get that flag out of here. There's no
Right.
release, you know. And
Yep.
I've found that some things in my life, arthritis being one of them, um, it's not like horsemanship. There's no release coming. The
No.
only way
Nope.
through it is fucking through the middle of it. Like just
Fighting.
change
Just a fight.
yourself. Yeah. And you just push through in order to become what you're supposed to be. You can lay
Yep.
down and quit, but then your potential, there it goes out the window.
Right.
And that's what I've found with like running the business and the stuff that we have going on in our lives. Like, there's no release coming. There's change coming
Right.
for
Right.
who I am. And that will deeply affect my ability to deal with the pressure that seems to be unrelenting.
Yep.
But, you know, it's like the gym or anything else. The change comes through torn muscle and
Yeah.
sweat and blood and tears. And anybody that's in that situation where you're just looking at yourself like, man, I just really need a break. The only advice I have for that is to freaking push
Right. Yeah.
harder, trust your wife, confide in her. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's something I haven't been doing for a long time. And that I started the last 2 weeks. I just told her, because that's the thing, dude. You have these thoughts and you feel like a total freaking nut. Like you're like, if I said this out loud to anybody, they would be
Right?
like,
Yeah.
freaking nuts. Like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with you? And I finally got up the courage, and I was like, man, I've just stopped communicating with my wife about these things. And I called her yesterday, and I was like, I just got to dump this on you right here. You know, we got to talk about this. And man, I cannot explain like her grace and kindness and like, and it has nothing to do with her. It's the
Right.
world, you know,
Right.
but dumping it on her in a healthy way and me
Mm-hmm.
not just coming home and being an asshole,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
changes the
Absolutely.
response, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know how many times my wife's been like, I didn't know. You know, even
Mm-hmm.
if it is something with her or with the kids or with something else, you know, it's amazing. And I tell my boys when they get upset with somebody, it's like, you'd be surprised. And this comes from, you know, being in leadership and in the Army. It's amazing how much is going on with somebody that unless they tell you, you have no clue and you can't
No
help,
clue.
you can't fix, you don't have any idea. And, you know, a second ago when you were talking about, you know, fighting the devil, that's something I think a lot of Christians really miss a boat on.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe in God, you inherently believe in the devil.
No
And
doubt.
I had a friend. He come back from. He struggled. He still struggles, but he was mad. He didn't not believe in God. That's how he said it. But he didn't not believe in God. He was mad at God because he couldn't understand, if you're all powerful, how can you let what I seen at war happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, you got to remember, this is not his kingdom. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
his deal. And for every bit that you deal with God, you're also fighting the devil
Mm-hmm.
and his influence. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'll take, he kind of turned a corner and he started walking towards Christ. And I told him, he called me months later and said it saved him. But I said, listen, I said, if you start walking towards God, I said, you're going to be attacked like you ain't never seen. Because people that are going to hell, the devil has no reason to screw with them.
Nope.
He's
Don't
got
care
them.
a lick. Yep.
He's got them. But if you're trying to get away from it and walk towards the kingdom of God, he's coming, and he's coming hard, especially if you're a new believer. And I see a lot of new believers, you know, they start walking towards God and then the devil just boom smokes them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, well, why would I deal with this? And I think that's really key. Like what you said, when you're fighting the enemy, is you got to remember you are going to have to fight him.
Oh,
And
no question.
and without relent, you're going to have to fight him, especially if you're walking towards something God wants. And I've told my boys, I said, most of the time, you talk about getting on a death road or a life road, most of the time, if you step onto a life road and you don't pop a tire, it's probably not the right road.
Ain't no doubt. That ain't
You
no
know,
doubt.
if you get on a death road, it's going to be easy sailing, baby. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
run yourself right off the cliff.
Yep.
The engine is going to be running good. But if you get
Mm-hmm.
on a life road, you're going to have the carburetor's going to go out. You're going to pop tires. There's going to be detours like you ain't ever seen, because he wants to fight you on that.
No
You know.
question. I had a guy a couple of weeks ago I talked to on the phone, and he said, I don't give the, hey, don't do that, man. That's loud. They can hear it. Um, he said, I don't give the devil any credit. And I said, I do. I give him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about a being that is good at what he does.
Oh yes, he is.
And
Amen.
if you look across that octagon at the guy you're about to get in there and fight with, and you go, he can't whoop me, you know,
You're already beat.
no credit. You're about to get that ass smashed, buddy.
Yep.
Like that
Yep.
dude's about to wreck you out. And so
Yep.
having respect for your enemy in the way that you're going to put forth effort in understanding the way that he's going to try to destroy you. And if you're not looking for what that guy's going to do, you're in trouble, man.
Yep.
Like you are in trouble. You're already beat. So looking, and I tell the guys at the small group all the time, it's like, it's going to sound like I'm talking about myself like I'm the main character in a movie or something. You know what I mean? But that's literally the way I look at it. Like I look
Mm-hmm.
at it like my job is to be a freaking warrior for Christ. and
Yep.
warriors fight. That's what
Yeah.
warriors do.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
what I've been called to defend is my family. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm supposed to defend. So if I don't go to spiritual battle for them, no one else is
Right.
going to do it. And if everybody would just do that, then the world would be a better place. So
Right.
I'm really thankful for the timing of the podcast, because I've spent many years trying to get my own life in order at my house with my kids, like my kind of how I father my sons and how I treat my wife. And, you got those first 5 years of marriage that are like a freaking wash, or you just being a total idiot and not paying attention to nothing. And I've always really sought to be a good husband, but I hadn't made enough mistakes yet
Right.
to really look up and go, where, like, I need to learn from every person around me what they did wrong so I don't do it,
Right. Right.
And so the timing of the podcast is a really special thing, because not only do I feel like I've endured quite a bit of suffering at my own hands, but the world's as well.
Right.
Just shit that's just unfair. And you're just like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
this?
Yes.
Where you
Yeah.
look up at God and go, what the man? Come on,
Right.
like,
Yes.
what's going on? And so you kind of have to have both perspectives if you're going to stand here. And I say all the time, mainly because of what Paul says about being a teacher in the Bible, is that my goal is not to preach or teach the Bible. My
Right. Right.
goal is to share my suffering with you, for
Mm-hmm.
you to share your suffering with me, for me to freaking learn what not to do or
Right.
what to
Right.
do. And all of this ties back into the Bible, because that's where the horsemanship principles
Yeah.
come from.
Right.
That's the principles of life, the principles of
Yes.
fatherhood, husbandry, just being not a piece of shit. It's all in there.
Yeah.
It's all in there. It tells you how to do it.
Yeah.
And not that we don't fail, but that's the goal. And if we all do it together, well, then it's easier. So,
Yeah.
and at least then you got a fella standing next to you that's like, I don't know what to do either.
Right.
I mean, let's go this way and see what happens. And at least you got a guy with you that's like, yeah,
Right.
that wasn't it.
Right.
Let's go back
Right.
that way.
And I love how
So,
you just put that. And I think a lot of people need to remember that when you're talking about like, God, what are you kidding me? And I
yeah,
think more people need to understand that, and especially men who are combative. Like there's times that like with autism, like I'm telling you right now, when I get to heaven, I'm going to look at God and I'm going to say, I believe in you. I know you have everything for a reason. You're going to have to tell me what your reasoning here was, man, because
yeah,
I'm not checking this out. But at the
yeah,
same time, when things get bad, like one of our younger ones here, it was hell on earth about a year ago. I mean, my wife and I collectively were getting 2-3 hours of sleep a night.
oof,
I mean, it was hell on earth, and he was having. Of course, they're nonverbal. They can't tell you, and our healthcare system needs a straight up choked out. And
mm-hmm.
no, I take that back. It needs completely abolished and redone. It is because he can't talk. They didn't take anything we had to say serious. We ended up throughout a year of begging and pleading and talking and screaming and hollering that we finally got him a pain medication. And what's frustrating is because with being around horses and cattle and livestock, when something's hurting and it can't tell you. But in
Yeah,
the human world, if you can't say it hurts, they don't want to do anything about it.
mm-hmm.
Anyway, we got him on some pain meds. Things are much better now, but it was horrific. But I think what helped me a lot of times was as a combatant, as a man, we're men, we're supposed to protect. Sometimes you got to look at the ground and say, dude, F you and bring it on.
yeah,
Like, I'll fight you. You're coming at my family. I mean, I can look up and be like, Lord, dude, I've got to have some help, man. Like, I don't know where I'm missing it. I know I'm not missing your grace. I don't know where I'm missing it, but dude, I've got to have some help. Or like, dude, I don't understand. But at the same time, I'm going to look at the ground and be like, bring it on,
let's
buddy.
go.
I don't care what you got. Bring it on, because I'm going to fight you tooth and nail. And I think a lot of people miss that card. And I know, bringing up my buddy, like, he's a soldier, and it's kind of like, dude, fight him.
Mm-hmm.
go toe to toe with him, because that's what you're going to have to do.
Yeah.
And I watched traditional preaching. I don't want to say it killed my grandma. Well, it did. I'm going to say it killed her, because it did. She had colon cancer, and I can remember the church she went in was very much, well, his will, as if the Lord is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
God's good. He's not going to give
Yes.
somebody cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's stuff of the devil. But she had it in her mind that God had given her cancer, and
Mm-hmm.
she just submitted to it,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the works that she was that everything came from God, good or bad, everything came from God. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you got to remember the devil's attacking you, and
Yeah.
that bad stuff is meant to get you away from Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a point in my life where I walked away from him because my cousin had passed away, and she was like a good person. Like she was
Mm-hmm.
like poster child valedictorian, never did anything wrong, like a good person. And she had a mysterious illness that she passed away, and nobody, I mean, they did no answers, none. They even did an autopsy, no answers at all. And I can
Mm-hmm.
remember being at her funeral, and there was two people that didn't put their heads down, and it was me and my uncle. And
Yeah.
I had straight up walked away from God at that point, because I didn't know any better. Was looking back on it, I didn't know any better. And
Mm-hmm.
so I look at it now, and I'm like, dude, that was the enemy, and he straight up just about won two people.
Yeah.
Like, he just about stole two people away from God with that one incident, because, and I'm sure there were more, but there was two
Mm-hmm.
of us that just straight up renounced God. And we're like, yeah, if God's not going to step in and save this person, then I just don't want nothing to do with him. Well, that's a guaranteed stretch to hell. And by the grace of God, I didn't die between renouncing him and coming back to him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to remember, you're fighting, and I think a lot of people miss that. I think they miss that you're fighting the devil, and you're going to have to go
No,
toe to toe.
I agree with that completely. And I think that people, I truly believe that people, uh, there's the God box, there's what's God's, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's what God has given you to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? So one of the easiest examples for me, hey, go kick that with Bubba. One of the easiest examples for me is being unhealthy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people will sit around and eat garbage and be garbage, and then they're surprised when they get diabetes. They're like,
Right.
oh, God gave me
Right.
diabetes. No, he didn't. He gave you muscles and a brain. Get up and use it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't have any, there's sympathy for it. People get sick, I understand, right? But to some degree, like when I got diagnosed with arthritis, man, the doctor told me, he was like, I was 27, maybe 26, 27. And I went to the doctor and he said, yeah, you got psoriatic arthritis. And I said, okay, well, what's that mean? He said, well, if you don't do your due diligence, by the time you're 50, you'll be completely crippled. And I was
Wow.
like, oh, shit, very well. And so I went home, got on the internet, and I started looking up what's going to happen to me.
Right.
And every single co-disease with what I have had one correlation: being fat.
Ah. Yeah.
So you hurt constantly, your fingers, your toes. It's small joint arthritis. So it's
Mm-hmm.
lower back, neck, fingers, toes. And if you think about it like a sprained ankle hurts, but it's not broken. You can do whatever you want
Right.
to with it if you just got enough grit. And
Right.
so I was like sitting there on my computer, I can remember typing. I was like, okay, reading. I was like, yeah, just don't get fat.
Right.
Okay, here we go. And so I took the gym way more serious than I ever had before that, because I
Right.
was like, all right, well, if I'm going to father my children in their 20s,
Right.
I just can't get fat.
Right.
And obviously there's been ups and downs and fluctuations in my weight and all the things, and how serious I am about the gym or motivated and all of that stuff. But the fact of the matter is like, at the end of the day, you got to pick up your cross and tote it.
Right.
You
Right.
you got to pick it up and go. And if you don't pick it up and go, you're going to get beat. And
You're
and
right.
I just
Yep.
don't understand any other mentality other than that. And then you have to surround yourself with people who are not going to tolerate just lazy BS.
That's the
They're just going
biggest.
to look
That's
at you and
yeah.
go, "Get the fuck up! What are you
Yep.
doing?"
Yep.
You know,
That is
like my
number
wife
one.
does that.
Yep. Absolute number one. I think that's most people don't understand. This is not, and being an only child, like I've had to figure out shit on my own, and there's still nothing compared to. You're never going to obtain a goal, like you said, unless you got somebody in your corner that's like your corner man. You watch Rocky,
Mm-hmm.
and the old man's like, suck it up, dude. Like,
Mm-hmm.
get out there. Like, quit being a sissy about it. You
Yeah.
know? And but at the same time, your corner man's like, dude, you need to get out of this fight. When Apollo got killed, and Rocky's like, dude, you need to stop. And I think that's why you need a corner man sometimes to listen to, regardless of whether you want to or not. 'Cause sometimes they're going to tell you you need to go, and sometimes they're going to be like, dude, get out. Like, this is not good. You have
Mm-hmm.
got to get out of here. And you definitely got to listen to both sides of that for sure. That's a tough deal for me. My weight got way out of control. I gained about 100 pounds because I got on a medication. I call it my ass will be gone pills. And
Mm-hmm.
it helps me. It helps me a lot. But it really just kind of slowed my system down. I started gaining weight, and then my hips, looking back on it, started leaking their way into my life for years. Like, now that I've got them replaced, I've lost literally 40 pounds since I've got my
Mm-hmm.
hips replaced. And a lot of that comes back to, it's funny being in the Army because I can't stand working out. Like, I would rather be beat to death than work out. If you want to go out and work all day in the field, if you want to put a 100-pound ruck on my back and tell me to walk from here to Alaska, dude, let's go. Like, I'm good. But to run just for the sake of running, I'd rather
Ugh.
die.
I
I
don't
just,
like running now. That's
and like,
different. Running's
oh
different.
God, I hate it. And like lifting weights, I'm like, push-ups, like I'll go bale hay all day. I'm
Yeah.
good with that. But I struggled so hard, and then I used the excuse of having the kids with autism, because a lot of times, we won't go to bed till 11. Then they're going to
Mm-hmm.
be up at midnight, 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 o'clock through the night. So it's like, when do you work out, right? Like, it's just
Mm-hmm.
not a. But when I got my hip done, I was like, dude, you're going to have to do something because your hip's not going to come back. And so, and with autism, like going to a gym's not a thing. So I think a lot of people refuse to adjust fire a little bit when they want
Mm-hmm.
something to look a certain way, but it's not in the cards. You got to adjust fire. So I bought a bike at home, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that made all the do something, because every long journey starts with a step, right? I don't even remember who
Yeah.
said that, but everything starts with one step. And I think too many people want that step to look perfect instead of just get in the middle of it, and just do it. So like, I bought a bike, and stationary bike, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
pedal there watching cartoons, while my
Yep.
kids ran around, and sometimes I'd have to stop because they're trying to stick their fingers in the spokes. But every 2 minutes I was on that, even if I had to stop every 5 minutes, it was still a hell of a lot more than I was doing.
Yeah.
And my hips come back, and now I can go, I can actually ride. I was
Mm-hmm.
like you, my hips were so bad that unless my parents had something that needed doctored, like and that's part of my soul. I'm sure for you, like being on a horse cowboying is like your
Oh, buddy,
soul
I'd get
needs
on
that,
right now. I don't give a
right?
shit what
Right?
hurts.
Like I'd be like, sorry,
Whatever.
dude, I gotta go. Like,
Yeah.
but it's part of your soul, and when you can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a piece of your soul with it, and so I get that part, and I agree that you got to figure out how to make it work one way or the other, even if it's
No.
5 minutes at a time.
Yeah, like is about 3 years ago now. Is before Waylon was born. We moved into this parsonage of a church. We rented it from the church, and there was a. You want a popsicle? Okay, stand by.
Good call.
Yeah, so we moved to this parsonage, this church, and there's a playground right next to our house. It's freaking awesome. Anyway, I was bartending at night and doing the 310 thing all day, and still practicing roping every day and all the stuff to stay sharp, and I just couldn't seem to get myself out of bed to go to the gym. For years, I would get up and go to the gym, 3:34 in the morning, and then my wife would go after me, and I just, man, I couldn't get out of the bed. And so I found this CrossFit workout called a Murph. Have you ever heard of this?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, hellish
It's killer.
workout. And so I got to where I did this deal where I was like, okay, I'm going to do a Murph every day for 30 days. And I did every freaking pull up, every push up, every squat at that playground with my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm up there just getting after it, and there they are playing, and it's not. And I think there is a lot to be said about showing this to your sons, showing this to your daughters. Is like, if I, like, in my situation, I have sons, but it's like, this is what a man should be trying to do. You know what I mean? You sitting on that bike going, I'm going to get better, even though y'all are all here and we're just going to get after it. And then likewise to your daughters, you're showing, I'm going to kick the dog shit out of anybody who comes in here and tries to take you on a date. I mean, that's just what I'm going to do, and I think showing the example, there's very few things other than a really hard workout that in a man's life where he can show his sons or his daughters what true weakness turns into. It's like my big, strong dad is going to get under that thing so many times that he's not going to be able to do it anymore. And then it's fails. Like, yeah, they're seeing you struggle. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I don't know. I think there's something to that. And those guys that on TikTok that are working out in their garage with their freaking youngins running around, and I'm like, dude, hats off, buddy. Get after it. It doesn't have to look like, I go to a powerlifting gym now, and I don't power lift. That's just close to my house. But those guys are, in there getting after it. And I got my freaking 6-year-old with me coloring next to the bench press while I'm getting my grind on. And when we walk in, they all look at me like, what are you doing here with your kid? And it's like, that's why I'm here, One, so when he turns 16 and tries to buck, I can ride it out. You know what I'm saying? And two, so he knows what it looks like to grind.
And I'm telling you, that's coming right now, because there's going to come a point where it's going to go from this kid's going to mine to
easy.
I better hold out, because the old man's, it just kind of turns into, I have to win this. Yes. Like, as the old man, you're like, shit, I got it. And it ain't going to be easy. I mean, you're going to have to put him on the ground. And I mean, we wrestle, that's something I've always been real, with my boys. It's always been real contact. And I know my wife's going to see this, but I don't care. When mom goes home, if they got some business between them, dude, all I say is leave the face alone. Otherwise, fix your business, because men don't learn to fight by not fighting.
No,
and you got to understand, and I think this is a huge thing with our country right now, is you run your mouth on the internet without any consequence. And I think men need to realize that your words have more consequence than a punch does. The Lord said life and death is the power of the tongue. What you say matters. It really matters. And you're going to come against somebody who either disagrees with or is trying to say the wrong thing, or maybe you're saying the wrong thing, and you might need to pay a price for it. And there's a level of respect that comes with, I'm going to make fun of somebody and then get stomped for it then the next time maybe I'm not going to make fun of somebody. Whereas
Facts.
if you don't pay that price, then you just keep running your mouth. And there's a lot of that going on in this world these days.
There's
a lot.
too much of it.
Too much. And I think, and I've seen my third oldest boy, he got into weightlifting and he got into the, like Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, he wants to get big and doing the pull-ups and the push-ups, and his older brothers don't push him around near like they would have.
Yeah, no question.
So,
muscles aren't everything, but they sure help.
They sure help.
They sure help. So I've lived life with them and without them, and I'm sure glad that I've put in the effort to get them, because dadgummit, I can trying to get back to it, but I can almost tie my shoes again without holding my breath. You know,
boy, oh boy, with my hips. See, my wife had to put my shoes on and socks on. Like I couldn't physically, like you couldn't. I was like this, in an L, and you couldn't push me together because the arthritis had locked in my hips. Mm-hmm. And so I talk about humbling. That's a whole new level of humbling when your wife's got to put shoes on. Like, what kind of man can't put his own freaking boots on? Like, what good am I? You know? Definitely humbling for sure.
Ain't no doubt. Well, Brandon, tell the people where they can find you, man. If y'all want to find them on TikTok, what's your handle there?
It's just at Brandon Schrader, and it's Brandon Scott Schrader on Facebook, and that's pretty much about the extent of it right there. That's so awesome, I try to throw out content about, getting your horses ready for the farrier. That's most of it, things like that.
That's awesome, man. Well, I sure do appreciate you coming on, man. I had a blast.
Absolutely. Good visit. Absolutely.
Yeah. You bet. We'll have to do it again sometime. I feel like we could go for 3 hours, honestly.
Oh, I think so, for sure.
No doubt. Well, all right, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you need me, Dalton at 310edu.com. Reach out if you want to be on the podcast. If you're struggling, holler at me there. If you want to support the podcast, you can check out artsufferingpodcast.com. We got some apparel. We got some hats coming. That's kind of the goal. It just supports the cause. You know what I mean? Hopefully we'll be able to upgrade equipment at some point. But thank you for watching. And Brandon, thanks for coming on, man.
My pleasure.